So, you're an MA student in applied linguistics, and you've spent weeks, maybe even months, crafting that absolutely perfect research question. But then you hit a wall. You've got the what, but now you need the how. How are you actually going to answer that brilliant question? Well, that's exactly what we're breaking down today.
Right. You've got this amazing destination in mind, but you can't just start walking. You need a map. That map, that plan of attack, that's your research design. And let me tell you, it's one of the most critical decisions you're going to make on this whole journey.
I want you to think of it like a blueprint for a house. I mean, you wouldn't just start building without a detailed plan, right? Of course not. A research design is your blueprint. It's the structure that connects what you want to know to how you're going to find it out. And it makes sure that your final conclusions are built on a rock-solid foundation.
Okay, so first up, let's look at the designs that are perfect for getting the lay of the land. If your big question is something like, so, what's happening out there across a really big group of people, then these are going to be your go-to tools.
First on our list is survey research. I guarantee you've run into these before. They are an incredibly common and, when done right, a really powerful way to gather information.
So, what's the goal here? It's pretty straightforward. You're asking people directly about their own experiences, what they believe, or how they act. You're basically collecting data on a massive scale about what people think or what they say they do.
And this really shows you why they're so popular. You use the exact same questions for everybody, which lets you gather a ton of numerical data from a huge number of people super efficiently. Then you can take all that data and run it through statistical analysis. It's all about getting that breadth and scale.
Now, something that's very closely related is descriptive research. If a survey asks people what they think is happening, descriptive research aims to observe and document what's actually happening on the ground, without asking for anyone's opinion.
The key phrase here, and you really want to lock this one in, is as it naturally occurs. You're not changing anything, you're not meddling, you're just creating a super accurate, evidence-based snapshot of reality as it is right now. You know, like documenting how often certain slang terms are used in an online forum. You're just mapping the territory.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. So far, we've talked about what is happening. But what if your question is more like, does X actually cause Y? Well, to answer a question like that, you need a completely different kind of blueprint. You need an experimental design.
Now there is one crucial, and I mean crucial, difference between these two: random assignment. See, in a true experiment, you randomly put people into different groups. But in education, we can't just randomly shuffle students between classes for a study, can we? So instead, we use the groups that already exist, what we call intact groups, and that's called a quasi-experiment. It's way, way more common in our field.
And here is a perfect example from a study back in 2020. Researchers took two existing EFL classes. They had one class give each other feedback on their writing using Facebook. The other class did it the old-fashioned way, with pen and paper. And what they find? The Facebook group's writing scores improved a lot more. Because they use existing classes, this is a classic quasi-experiment. Okay, so we've covered the big picture, and we've covered cause and effect. But what if you want to go deep? What if your question is all about understanding one single complex situation in incredibly rich detail? For that, my friends, you need the case study. With a case study, you're basically trading the wide-angle lens of a survey for a powerful microscope. You focus intensely on just one single case, which could be one person, one classroom, or even one whole school. The goal here is a holistic understanding. You're not trying to generalize your findings to everybody on the planet. Instead, you're trying to understand this one specific thing in all of its messy, complicated, real-world context. The real power of the case study comes from this multi-layered approach. You're not just using one tool. You're pulling out all the stops, interviews, sitting in on classes, looking at student work, and you often do this over a long period of time to build a really rich three-dimensional picture.
All right, our last design is pretty unique. It's not about being a detached observer looking in from the outside. This is research designed by practitioners for practitioners to solve real problems in their own backyard.
This is the go-to design for teachers who see a problem happening in their own classroom and want to do something about it in a really systematic, thoughtful way. So here's the absolute key difference. In almost every other design, the researcher tries to stay out of the way. You don't want to interfere. But in action research, you jump right in. You are supposed to intervene. The whole point is to try to make a change and then study the effects of that change. And it works in this really cool cycle. You spot a problem,
You come up with a plan to fix it, you try it, you watch what happens, and then you reflect on it. And if it didn't quite work, you just adjust the plan and go through the cycle again. It's a living, breathing, problem-solving loop.
Phew. Okay, that was a lot, I know. We've gone through a bunch of different research blueprints. So the million-dollar question is, how do you choose the right one for your project?
Think of this table as your researcher's compass. It honestly all comes back to your research question. What are you really trying to do? If you want to describe a huge group, you use a survey. If you want to see if one thing causes another in a real classroom, you use a quasi-experiment. If you want to understand one student inside and out, it's a case study. And if you want to fix a problem in your own teaching, it's action research. See? It all starts with the question.
Okay, think you got it? Let's find out. I'm going to throw a couple of research questions at you. Your job is to pick the right design from our compass. Ready?
Okay, here we go. So the question is, how does one advanced EFL student develop her writing voice over a long period of time? One student, over time, lots of depth. What do you think?
You got it. It's a case study. It has to be. The question is all about a deep, long-term investigation of a single bounded person. Perfect fit.
All right, last one. Check out the keywords here. In my class. What can I do to improve it? And does my intervention work? This question is all about the researcher fixing a problem in their own world.
Has to be action research. This is a textbook example of a practitioner asking a question to solve a local problem and then reflecting on whether their solution actually worked.
So at the end of the day, it's as simple as this. Your research question is a lock, and these designs are the keys. It's not about which design is the best one overall. It's about finding the one perfect key that fits your specific lock. The blueprint you choose will shape everything that comes after. So which key are you going to use?